Hey everyone, Karnak here, Star Wars Armada Explained. Today we're going to look at the Rebel Officer Major Derlin. Now I had put up a video the other day explaining this card. Unfortunately, it was pointed out to me that, you know what, you missed a couple of things, and even though I can spend an hour on one card making sure I'm trying to research everything, it just goes to show that in Armada, there's always just tiny little details that you need to try to remember for so many different things. So I took down the other video to redo his card just to make sure I'm doing everything I can to explain every interaction with him and make sure that players are understanding how he works. So apologies for doing a bait and switch, but here's the new card, or not the new card, but the new video. So Major Derlin, he is a rebel officer. How do you know he equips to the officer upgrade slot? If you look at the bottom left-hand corner of his card, you'll see the officer upgrade icon there. He's faction specific to the Rebel Alliance, which you can see there next to his point cost, which is 7. Now, Major Derlin, if you look next to his name, you'll see a little bullet point or a dot, signifies that he is unique. You can only bring one of him in your fleet. His card reads, before you suffer damage from an attack, you may exhaust this card to reduce the total damage by 1. He does not have any clarifications or errata or anything like that. And for all intents and purposes, his card is very straightforward, but like with anything in Armada, there's always just little nuances. I'll try to make sure I'm covering all that. So when is his timing? So Major Derlin's timing specifically states before you suffer damage. This places him firmly in the resolve damage step portion of the attack. So remember when another ship is conducting an attack, or a ship or a squadron, remember the attacker rolls his initial attack pool. Then he modifies any die, whether if he's concentrating die in, or concentrate fire die in, or he's doing any re-rolls or anything like that. That's in the modification step. And essentially, whenever the attacker says, okay, I'm done modifying and fiddling around with my dice, then we go into the spend defense token step, where the defender can then declare any usage of his defensive tokens, like in the example of this Pelta, which has an evade, redirect, embrace. And also if you had any other upgrade cards or any other abilities that could potentially affect the die pool as it is. So in this situation, you know what, we're going to declare we're using a brace. We're going to declare we're using a redirect. Again, make sure you declare in which hull zone that your redirect is going to. And then after you declared your defense token use and you've used other cards that could be used in the spend defense token step, now you get to the resolve damage step. If the attacker has any critical icons showing, he has any cards that can be affected, obviously by those critical icons, that's when he declares if those come into play or not. And then before you then physically touch the shield dials on your ship, that is when you can say, okay, I'm using Major Derlin, because it's before you're touching the dials on your ship, whether to suffer damage to your shields or to suffer any hull damage. That is when you then exhaust his card and you can reduce the total damage by 1. Now, Major Derlin, when you exhaust for the attack, a lot of players like to use him against like squadrons or anything that's only doing 1 damage, or if somebody attacked your Pelta or whatever ship he's equipped to, if they have a brace, typically a brace only reduces a damage by half, always rounded up. And so when you brace, like for example, 2 damage to 1 damage, Derlin can actually come along and make that damage 0. So that's kind of a nice thing that he can provide. Now, there are some areas where Major Derlin doesn't work. And that is specifically with the card Wide Area Barrage, and also with the objective Minefields. Why is this? Remember, Wide Area Barrage, I've covered this card before in my other video, but the critical effect that it gives, when you trigger its critical effect on the main target that you're attacking, it allows you to choose another target at close range to suffer some additional damage. That additional damage that's being suffered because of this black critical effect is not considered an attack. It is just direct damage applied to that ship or that squadron. And the person on the receiving end of that He can choose which hull zone that damage gets suffered to, but it can't be braced, it can't be redirected, it can't be evaded or anything like that because it's not a direct attack on that ship, meaning that Major Derlin cannot be used to block damage from wide area barrage. Because again, specifically states on his card before you suffer damage from an attack. The effect from wide area barrage is not a direct attack. It doesn't have an attack step or any sort. Obviously, if Derlin's on the main ship that's been targeted by the wide area barrage, he can be used there, but if he can't block the splash damage from that. That ties in also to minefields. Again, minefields, you're placing down objective tokens, and if your ship lands at distance 1 of 1, it blows up and you roll 2 blue die, and depending on what the blue die shows, you have to suffer damage from that. Now again, for minefields, it specifically states that it's not an attack, because if you read its card, it just says that you roll 2 blue die. It doesn't say conduct an attack. It doesn't say attack this ship. It just says roll 2 blue die. And depending on what those 2 blue die are showing, that's what happens. So again, Major Derlin cannot be used to block a minefield attack because again, he's not being attacked directly. There's no attack step involved. So he can't be used there. And I know there's a bunch of new objectives cards coming out, maybe some other crazy abilities. Obviously, hopefully this gives you some explanation about when he can and cannot be used. So I appreciate you guys sticking out as I redone the video. There's no other, as far as I'm aware at this point, any other crazy interactions or anything else I need to make sure I'm covering. As always, appreciate you guys watching. And continue to make sure you're pointing out those little things on the videos. Let me know if I got anything wrong or an error, if I missed anything, because I want to make sure I'm providing the most correct information. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.